Hi everyone. Welcome to a new video. This is kind of like a bit of a, not necessarily a bonus episode or a bonus thing. I wanted to make this video. I don't know. This might come tomorrow. I do want to make this at least. I kind of wanted to answer some questions because I know, well, a question. Yeah, at least one. So some people, or at least there was a question about how to level up the, what do we call it? Your, how to increase the amount of population you have, essentially. And it was kind of like a question where I'm like, if you read it, it'll be kind of fine, but, essentially, there's 3 little steps you can kind of take to increase the amount of population you have. And it's kind of like, we begin with getting the amount of resources. Essentially, as simple as it is, get a good amount of resources, as simple as it can be. All of these are useless, but a lot of people don't. So how do we get people, is the question, right? So, to increase the capacity of people, we actually have to go with alpha. I'm just gonna get straight to this, right? So, there's no time wasting. So, you need resources in order to get other people. You need resources to begin with, right? So you can upgrade all of these whenever. It is preferable that you upgrade them as you kind of get more people, essentially. So I've been trying to balance out maxing the dormitory first, as well as maxing the storehouse next, since these are kind of key to each other. You don't need to upgrade this after you upgrade this, so essentially this level 7 will be more than enough at level 7 as well. We actually underuse this a bit, but essentially this needs to be as high as you can get it to increase the capacity. The capacity, once it's reached, has to be fed. So even if you have a certain amount of people, you don't actually have any useful. They're not going to be useful at all if you don't have food for them. So in order to use your capacity, the amount of people in here, you have to make sure that delta is maxed to the degree that you want it to, 1 per unit. So if you have 440 people that you want to use, right, or 20, or however many you have. If you go from the very bottom, you begin with 20 food. I think that is just the base. That's how many people it feeds. The game feeds without you doing anything. Per person, you get an increase of 4. So in order to feed 1 person, you must sacrifice 10 of themselves. For every 1 person, you get an extra 3 people that you can actually feed. You can actually increase the people that are used in this without actually having the right amount of food. So if you have, because I actually did this recently, so I had what is it? So I had 420, and I actually didn't have enough food to feed them, but it is kind of like a self-sustaining cycle. So you can actually exactly meet the amount of food and people you have. So if you have a maximum of 440 people that are used, and by the way, this number is actually dependent. So I don't know how to put it. It's pretty simple, but it's kind of a little bit convoluted. So this is the amount of people you can use. This is the max capacity. So this tells you the max amount. This tells you the max amount that can be the currently allotted people. So this is how many people being fed, and this tells you the amount of food that can be fed to those people. So you can actually so this is the max capacity. If I was to remove this, so I would only be able to feed 20 people without any upgrades at all. And not having to allot anybody. So the game naturally gives you the food for 20 people. So if you want to get started, the best thing I would recommend is putting the people to begin with in at least probably your upgrade facilities, or your stone yard, your lumber yard, and your factory. So essentially, stone, wood, and coins. So these, and I know it's like really easy to say. I'm like, well, essentially, if you look at my things, they're not necessarily maxed out because I want them to be maxed out. I realistically would rather have these things maxed out, but I can't put any more. And if I'm being honest, I kind of may have messed up a bunch of times by clicking this button, and I shouldn't have. I may have been investing a little preemptively on this. I don't think you actually need this quite yet. My goal is to get these ones maxed out first. These actually produce stuff even without having anything on them. It may not be as much as when you have max people. Of course, it never is. But the goal, in theory, is to max out your essentially your hub, right? So max this out, get it to level 10. Once it's level 10, and every single one of these facilities are maxed, right? So after that, you can be selective about what you do with them, because there's like a little two things you can actually get from these. So, from my experience, this one doesn't really give anything particularly like a special, so to say. This one is probably the only one that actually really does give you something, and realistically, you're actually going to have more than enough people to actually probably give it out to everybody, or to allocate people to everybody. So it's not going to be that much of an issue once you're max. But essentially, max alpha. After your max alpha, allocate the people that alpha can have, which is a bit of a weird backwards thing. Which, by the way, if you're trying to get a lot of people suddenly, and you're not seeing your people actually increase. The way that they work is that Alpha has capacity. She actually doesn't do anything other than just increase your capacity. She's just essentially storage. So, Alpha just acts as storage. So how do we actually get these people? And that's kind of like a weird thing. And this is where you kind of have to play the game a little bit. And which is a trick I found to be kind of both useful and it actually works. So Seda is actually the person that increases the amount of people you get. So the capacity can only be filled if you have people. The capacity is filled by Seda. So every 6 hours, she's actually gonna, if your capacity does not meet the amount of people you can actually have. So this is the amount of people that are actually in the Shadow Garden base. This is the capacity, right? So this is the people. It's the capacity. It's such a bit of a weirdly convoluted place that it's like it's weird to do. And before you misunderstand what the +7 thing is for, it's talking about the 7 shadows. I think honestly, it's a bit confusing because it took me a while to kind of comprehend like what's the 7 for, and I'm like. The 7 shadows, the 7, however you want to call it, 7 shadows, 7 shades. Either way, 7 base characters. That's where the 7 people came from. They don't actually affect your stats directly. The ones you actually do have to worry about are the 440 people that you actually get from Zeta. And okay, so there's like essentially 3 factors. There's capacity, there's food. And there is essentially Seda giving you those the people. So the people need to eat, as most people do, but they're not actually gonna be able to be fed if you're. And it's definitely convoluted, and pardon me for not making like a bit better, but essentially, let me see. So. Essentially, the first thing you have to do is max capacity. Once you have max capacity, well, you can really do whatever you want with it. Seda will fill that capacity. So she's essentially the way you get water. So imagine Alpha giving you the bucket. In order to fill the bucket, you need to go to Seda. Once you have your bucket full, well, there's a few things you can do with that bucket. However, you have to, quote-unquote, cook that water first before it's, usable, so to say. And that's where Delta comes in. Delta will actually just simply give you the food. And the food is actually equivalent to the amount of people you can actually have. So, if your food is 0, if you don't have any extra people, and by the way, it will cost people. It is a bit of like an exchange. So for every person you can have, you will have extra 3 food. So for every person hunting, you're going to get enough people for 4 people, but you already consumed 1. So if you have 120, assuming you have 120, it's 120 plus 20, so it's 120 times 4, so you're getting enough people for 180, but you have an extra 20, that's where the 500 comes in. But you can feed 500 people. You're using 120 people. It's a bit of an odd equation, and the best way to really just kind of figure it out and just kind of mess around, and the best way I recommend is for this is just max this out. This, by the way, does not need to be maxed out. Do not max it out at all. You do not need. I would not recommend it, because if you're not actually collecting the stuff, you can actually just collect the stuff. I keep making the same mistake where I keep clicking OK every single time, and I actually end up delaying my process a little bit more than I wish. But either way, max this out. Once this is max, collect your people from Zeta. Once you have those people, if this is lower level, your people are kind of useless, yes, but now you can actually focus on maxing her out. Once you have a capacity, once your capacity meets the amount of food, so this is the capacity, this is the capacity, this is the amount of people you have. This is the amount of people that are being fed. This is the amount of people that are able to be fed. So this is the people fed. This is the amount of people that are being fed. Right? The number changes. The reason it's equal is because it's just math doing math things, right? So I have 439 people that need to be fed. I have 436 portions of food. If I add an extra person, that adds the 440. If I were to add another person, I get an extra 4 pieces of food, but I need an extra person. So that does not actually work in this case. And it feels like a math equation. It kind of is a little bit. And I'm pardon me for not making it easier. Essentially, if these numbers are the same, all of these, so if this, and this, so if this number, and this number, and this number are the same, you're good. Good job. You've done your job. The way you kind of get them to max is max capacity first. Then you can worry about maxing out delta, and then pretty much go from there. However, from my personal recommendation is the best way to really go about this is by maxing these ones out. It's a bit of a kind of like it's a balancing game, and essentially your goal is to put all the people that you can afford. Let me be 100%. Let me put it like this, right? So, if I had the choice, I would have an extra 80 people on all of these. If I have really had the choice. The problem I have is that I do not have enough materials currently. and each room takes about an hour to get 500, and I need 330,000. So currently it's going to take about, what, 48 hours to do that? So I think 30,000 divided by 500. Because it take about 60 hours for me to actually be able to use that again, to actually upgrade my base. Right? The goal is to essentially max all of these out and go along with the amount of food you have. So all this is just reserved extra food. I maxed this out, and I maxed this out. So now I can actually focus on just upgrading these. And I do apologize for not making, like, because I'm like, I keep going back and forth, and essentially just, it is a bit of a confusing thing. Personally, my first recommendation is max these ones out, and put all the people in the one you need the most. So, if you need more wood, put all your people in the wood factory or in the lumber yard. Once you have all your people in here, you'll actually notice that the wood will actually increase faster than your stone by a significant amount typically. The base amount is 20, right? So going from here to here is quite a big number. Essentially, it quintuples the amount of materials you get and such. And it's really helpful. And it's certainly quite a. It's essentially like it's a neat base farming sim essentially. Max out these as fast as you can. If you run out of people, you want to go with these ones next. The problem is like these ones will actually need more people than you typically have. So whenever these get pretty much maxed out, like at level 6, I think, right? You need to go to level 7, right? So essentially, this will be maxed out. This will be maxed out. And before you realize it, right? So ideally, these should be maxed out first, but the game doesn't let you. So, well, they'll let you, right? But essentially, these are gonna be the maxed out last. These are ideally the first things you go for, because having more people lets you increase the amount of resources you have. Essentially, having more hands will help you finish the thing. It's so confusing, but if you want just kind of like a simple answer, max these out. Once you can't put more people in these, go for these ones. These are very important. Do not touch Zeta and Ada at all. Do not touch these. They are not actually needed. They will help you. But personally, I haven't really seen too much use out of them, because they can only get like every 6 hours, and yes, it's helpful with the amount of stuff they can, like, Zeta is really helpful because she gets like a good amount of stuff. Like I think like if I go away for like essentially like 2 days, right, I'll come back to like 20 minutes. That's nice and all, but in order to upgrade one thing, I need 25 at the moment, and I'm not even, and I'm ranked like what, like 8? This is entirely useless to me. Like it's like useless to a certain degree that I would like it not to be. But it's not quite as useful as me being able to max this. As if I max this out, it'll actually be more useful maxed out than it is currently. So essentially, you have to think about these as endgame things, and I wouldn't worry about them. They're not gonna be as helpful to you quite as much as these three. And it's kind of it can be such a backwards way of thinking about it, but you kind of work on this. So you work on essentially like this is essentially an investment for these ones to be maxed faster. Because you can max these out. You can max this out. You can max these ones out first. Which me personally, I've been doing on accident. Which is really, it has hurt me because it is so easy to click on this button. And click, and you click OK, and you click OK again, and that's happened to me. And I do hope nothing, it doesn't happen to you. And I'm very passionate about it because it's just happened to me. I wish I was kidding. 5 times at least. I don't know why, but it has. I digress. Yeah, I'm very like confused by that, but yeah. God. And I think what I'm gonna go for after this is I think I'm actually gonna invest on my coinage farm first, because I typically upgrade what I think is more. Put it like this, right? So if one of these is missing a lot, right? So this one's missing what, like this one's missing 50%. If this one's missing 50%, for example, this is the next one I'm gonna upgrade. Whenever I upgrade, I actually oversee what the cost is. The way I know my stone does not need to be upgraded next, and typically what happens, right, so these are actually done over such a long period of time, that if you upgraded one of them in the past and invested more people to them first, they're actually going to have extra materials that are going to be used for stuff later down the line. So the way I've been balancing is, whoever I see has less of a percentage of upgradable materials, so this one has less than 50% of the materials needed, compared to what is essentially so this is like 12,000 is how much this needs. So this is full, so I'm not worried about stone. Stone can go dead last, to be completely honest, and I'd still have a little bit of profit, a little bit. And I do apologize if this is essentially turned into how to invest your stonks in your shadow garden base. But yeah, that's kind of how it goes. So this is the lowest for me. So I'm gonna actually upgrade this one as soon as I can. So in 60 hours, I'm actually gonna upgrade her. And actually, fun fact, it's going to be such a long time before I can actually upgrade this. Once I upgrade her, I should actually have enough materials to upgrade the other two. Because it's going to be 60 hours for this. Once the 60 hours are gone and passed, what's going to happen is that, so I get 120, so I get an extra 40 people, right? So I'm gonna get an extra 200 coins an hour, which is it's diminishing returns. It's more expensive and less efficient. Yeah, man, if you've played this before, this is as confusing as it can be. Essentially, maxes space on your need. If you see a building and you've invested too much in your stone and not enough on your lumber, what you're gonna need is first of all, you're gonna need to upgrade that building first. If you can't, you're gonna have to just straight up wait. It's a slow process. This is genuinely gonna take you at least 2 to 3 months to build. From the looks of things and the way I've started, and I started this as soon as I saw it. I was like, oh, that's a cool thing. And then I saw the amount of time, and I was like, huh, this is gonna take a long time. So this is a long-term project, and for those of you that would wish this was like a bit of a long thing, or a bit of like an instant thing, as much as I'd like it to be, you'll probably see definitely better benefits if you balance it out as it's like as it shows you in the game for you. So as your needs are being like required. So this one requires me to upgrade my factory first, right? Because it's the slowest one producing, at least percentage-wise. So this is gonna be the one that I upgrade first, and then it's probably gonna go to the lumber one, and then it's gonna go to my stone. But yeah, that's how it's gonna go. And actually, fun fact, I'm probably not gonna have enough people because I think that's like 40. So I can upgrade all these to 40, and I only have 95 people available. So these are 80 people I'm actually gonna reinvest, and an extra 15. So actually, I have 95 people that I'm actually gonna reinvest between these two. And I'm actually gonna be not at max for it, and it's actually gonna be a little bit of a bother. I know. But essentially, these two are going to be the first ones to, I think, see the benefit. Yeah. I do apologize if this ran a little too long. I do hope it was a little more helpful than the video before. And I do apologize for running a little bit too long. It is a difficult thing to explain. I probably need some more rest still. I'm still not 100% recovered, but I'm feeling much better. I hope you'll have a good day, and stay solid.